Fox News senior correspondent Benjamin Hall knows the devastation of the war in Ukraine all too well. He covered, obviously, the fighting on the ground and was gravely injured in a Russian missile strike more than 3 years ago. Benjamin joins us now. It's great to see you, Ben. Your thoughts on this day, knowing all you know about the ground in Ukraine and this moment in time and how kind of crucial it is for all of these countries involved.
Yeah, look, it's been 3.5 years of this very, very brutal war. Hundreds of thousands of people killed on both sides. Secretary Rubio saying just recently that 60,000 Russians lost their lives in July itself. And of course, we've got to talk about Pierre and Sasha, two of our colleagues who also died covering this conflict. And many things are going to be talked about today. You know, people say it could be about splitting territory. It could be about lifting sanctions. It could be about nuclear arms treaties. There's a lot. But what President Trump has been saying for years now is that the killing has to stop. It's just got to be the starting point. And I think what so many leaders want, European leaders, Ukrainian leaders, Zelensky, they want to see a ceasefire. And that would be the place to build to something further. I've been speaking to Ukrainians today. I've been in touch with them, and they are optimistic. They are optimistic that Putin has come to the table. They acknowledge that he's come to the table because President Trump has been harsh with him, that he's going to put 50% tariffs on India, sanctions perhaps on China for buying their Russian oil. And they know that that's brought Putin to the table. But whether Putin can be convinced to have a long-term ceasefire, they just don't know. 69% of Ukrainians now want a negotiated peace. 24% want to keep fighting. And so the Ukrainians are ready. They are a little bit concerned that President Trump and President Putin are meeting without the Ukrainians, that there might be land grabs happening without them there. But the European leaders have been pressurizing, or at least telling President Trump, that he must be aiming for a meeting with all of them. And for the last couple of days, that's what President Trump has been saying. And that is a really strong message that Ukrainians feel as well. They do not feel they're really left out of this. So, look, this is two men, world leaders, the most powerful men in the world, looking eye to eye. But there are the hundreds of thousands of people in Ukraine, the millions displaced, who this will affect. And many people will say that, yes, perhaps President Trump shouldn't be giving President Putin this kind of big summit. President Trump has been saying time and time again he's doing so because it's optimism. Perhaps that Putin may not stand true to his word, but they've got to try. And President Trump is there to look him in the eye to see if he can make that happen. And so, look, we wait to see what will come of it.
Ben, just a quick question for you. We watched the video of Zelensky meeting with the Prime Minister Keir Starmer. And, you know, how committed is the UK and are these leaders of Europe to providing stability and security for Ukraine when, hopefully, the war is over?
Yeah, they very much are, and more so than they were, you know, a year ago. And that's because they are well aware that President Trump is not going to be there in the same way President Biden was there, that European countries have to really shoulder the burden here. And so you've seen Germany, the UK, France saying they will play a far more active role. That being said, the UK had been talking last year about sending 30,000 soldiers to be part of a peace team. That has changed as well. And recently, Keir Starmer, the Prime Minister, has been saying, no, maybe they'll be there in the west of the country. Perhaps there'll be overflights. So there's been a pullback from saying there will be tens of thousands of European troops right up on the front line monitoring peace. But they know they have to play a part. And I think even President Putin has changed his view on that as well. He used to be totally against the idea of rebuilding Ukraine's military. Well, even that seems to change in his speeches recently. So that's going to be a big part of it, because whether or not a peace deal is done now, one of the other critical things is making sure that Russia does not invade again in 3 years, 4 years, 5 years. How can you really make Ukraine a porcupine state? So the Europeans know they have to shoulder quite a lot of that work, and I think they're ready to do so.
Yeah, Ben, I know a lot of people have followed your story, read your book, watched the documentary, and the amazing recovery that you've had, resilience. You've been back to Ukraine. When you talk to Ukrainians, is there, to your point, the Gallup poll says 69% want to come to an end, but is there a real fear that if Putin gets some kind of land in the east, that he would have a launching point, a lily pad to do it again, to rip up whatever he agrees to and come back after them?
Yes, and I think time and time again we've seen President Putin invade various countries, try to push the lines, and that's why the idea that Ukraine has to be, fully fortified is so important. And so, President Zelensky said just a few days ago that he couldn't trust a word that President Putin said, and I think that's what President Trump will be looking at today. Is President Putin there just to sell him stories, just to promise him big, wins on the surface without underlying them with real security backups? I think that's going to be the difficult thing today. Do you just accept, hostage prisoner releases, mineral deals, or do you have a ceasefire starting today? Do you give the Ukrainians the ability to push back at all? Does NATO play a bigger part in that or not?
Ben, thank you very much. I think about those people leaving their home with their suitcases that we just saw in that video and wondering if a future exists where they might be able to come back home to the places that they left. And obviously, you made a lot of sacrifice and a tremendous amount of courage in your journey since then as well. And it's great to have you.
Hey, it's Will Cain. Click here to subscribe to the Fox News channel on YouTube. It's the best way to get our latest interviews and highlights. And click to subscribe to the Will Cain podcast for full episodes right now.